Joining me on Stockbox today is Louis Coetzee, the Executive Chairman of Katoro Gold. Hi, Louis.
Good day, Mark.
How are you?
I'm fine, and yourself?
Yes, doing very well. Thank you, Louis. It's good to be talking again. Of course, we're talking because we're following up on the RNS that the company released yesterday, which was a progress update on the Blyvoor Gold Tailings Project in South Africa. So I note that the company has received expressions of interests for funding of an amount significantly more than the peak funding requirement that you announced on the 7th of May. So let's just start. Can you explain this peak funding in a bit more detail?
Yes, of course. You see, Mark, what we did is when we started the scoping study, one of the things we wanted to understand when we commissioned the scoping study was to understand what is our peak funding requirement. In other words, what are we in for? What is our capital expenditure? What do we have to do to get to that point of positive cash flow? And that's exactly what the peak funding requirement is. The peak funding requirement is the cumulative initial capital expenditure plus your incurred losses or costs that you need to bring the project to a point where you have positive cash flow. So it's a very significant number. Mm-hmm. And this number that we quoted in RNS comes from that study that we did, and that indicated to us that the initial thoughts of a 250,000 ton per month capacity, that's about our funding requirement. And that's the significance of this, is that we've now received expressions of interest that is in excess. It's more than the peak funding requirement that comes out of the study that we announced on the 7th of May. And that's a very positive position. That's a very good position to be in, and we're very pleased with that.
Okay. Now, just following on from that, then, the RNS also mentions a formal non-binding term sheet for the funding, which, if agreed, will fund up to 40% of the peak funding requirement. So is it safe to assume that this 40% is the initial funding required to get the project off the ground?
Again, if I go back to what I explained just now, we've received a number of expressions of interest. And these expressions of interest came in different forms and different shapes and sizes, if I can put it that way. Mm-hmm. And one of these that we received is this non-binding term sheet, this conditional non-binding term sheet that we referred to. And what we try to highlight is that, we have this funding, let's say, envelope that we have at the moment, or the expression of interest. All of these combined gives us this position where we have in excess of our peak funding requirement. And one of them is advanced to the level where it is already in the form of a term sheet. So this is actually more to indicate that the funding discussions is progressing. Okay. It's moving very positively, and it's moving fast in the right direction.
Okay, so there are multiple funding options on the table.
Yes, okay. And that's indeed correct.
Perfect, right. Okay, and it also sounds as if the revised resource and reserve statement is very close to completion. Will the independent valuation report follow on based on this report?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The independent valuation report builds it sort of the revised resource and reserve statement is sort of the foundation for this valuation report. So yes, the two are interconnected, and the valuation report will follow in short, shortly after the resource and reserve statement is completed.
Okay, good. Now, I wonder if you can just clarify something and perhaps explain the difference between an unincorporated joint venture and an incorporated joint venture. I mean, I've never actually heard of the terms myself. What is the significance of this?
I will try to keep myself out of the legal jargon that comes along with it, or the legal technicalities that comes along with this. But I'll try and explain it this way. An unincorporated joint venture, it's like a partnership. It's two parties who agree by means of an agreement to do certain business together. Whereas an incorporated joint venture is a situation where that same two parties who might have agreed to do it as an unincorporated joint venture now agree that let's just hold shares in an incorporated company. So your participation interest in the unincorporated joint venture now becomes shares in an incorporated company, real hard shares, equity that is in that incorporated company. And that always is quite significant because it shows the commitment, and it also shows the direction that the project is moving in.
Yeah, it solidifies it a bit more, I suppose.
Definitely, it just brings everything much closer together. It aligns interests in a far more definitive manner as well.
Okay, perfect. Now, it sounds then that the project financing is almost over the line. So what are the feelings of you and your fellow directors for the future?
I would like to start off by saying that we've all along been saying that the funding, the project funding, the funding that's required for this project is not going to be an event. It's going to be a process. It's a journey. And the important thing to understand is that this journey is going forward. It's progressing. We're heading towards our destination, and we're fast approaching that destination. And I think if you want to know how excited we are, just read the last paragraph of that RNS where we say we have decided to incorporate. I do not see a situation where we would have agreed to incorporate, to go for incorporated joint venture, if we did not believe we're heading in the right direction, if we did not believe that we're heading in a direction where we can unlock the value that we've always been saying that is inherent in this project. So yes, we're very excited, and we are very keen, and we are very active in bringing this whole thing together and getting to that, if I can go back to what I said just now, to get this journey to the final destination, which is becoming clearer and clearer by the day. And I go back to what I said just now. The key to understanding this question, or the key answer to this question, is why would we go for incorporated joint venture if we were not excited?
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much, Louis Coetzee, the Executive Chairman of Katoro Gold, and I hope to be speaking to you again fairly soon.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this Stockbox interview. For more information, interviews and videos, visit our website at stockboxmedia.com or give us a follow on Twitter by searching @StockboxMedia.